another episode of Next to Madison. On today's episode, I am bringing back a previous guest who was on episode 5. I am bringing on a psychic medium who is going to talk to us about, not only about her background, but also about kind of what's going on right now and how we can all take some positives out of this and kind of some guidance through it, because all of us we're in this unknown, and so many of us find comfort from just having something that's known. And you turn on the news and it's a lot of negativity, but we want to kind of see what the other side might be saying and just give us some hope is kind of what we're really looking for today. So I'm so excited that my guest is back. I just love her. I'm a client of hers. If you guys ever want a reading or to connect with loved ones that have passed, or just kind of see what your future holds, because we're all in a very anxious time right now, she is a wonderful person to connect with. So with that being said, I want to bring on my guest, Holly McGeorge from Beyond Belief Psychic Medium. Holly, welcome. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Madison. How are you? You're looking beautiful as always.
You too, my dear. I'm so excited to have you back on. This is such a crazy time in everybody's lives, and we're just so like, what the heck's going to happen? And so I kind of, for people who hadn't listened to episode 5 of the podcast, just kind of introduce yourself, give us a little background of kind of how you do what you do.
Okay, that sounds great. And thanks for having me again, Madison. I'm very excited to be here. And we could not have timed this better in my mind. Because as you said, so many people right now just don't know which direction to turn. So just to kind of recap, I have been a psychic medium my whole entire life. One of the big questions people always ask is, when did this start, or when did you know you had it? And I always say the truth is it's more like, when did I learn that not everybody had this? Excuse me, I apologize.
No worries.
So this goes way back for me. When I was 2 years old, I actually lost my 42-year-old father. And I was the one that was there at the time that he passed away. So it was about that time that my dad actually started to visit me. And he stayed with me until I was 14. And then when I was 3 years old, I actually had a near-death experience of my own that led to me actually crossing over to the other side for a very brief period of time. And that was by way of drowning. So from there, I ended up having family members start to actually visit me as they departed. And so really this was my norm. And it wasn't until I was a young adult, I opened my own hair salon, and it built up very, very quickly. And through owning that hair salon and having a very large clientele, I started to learn that I knew things that I had no business knowing. And that is just simply because as I would be doing somebody's hair, things would just naturally spill out of my mouth. And the person sitting there would be like, whoa, wait a minute. I never told you about my dead Uncle Jack. Where did that just come from? And I'd be like, beats me. And they'd be like, no, you need to explain this. I'm like, there's no explaining that. Ask Jack. So anyway, it was sort of through that time frame that it became apparent to me that there was something going on that was probably a little outside of the norm. Mm-hmm. And I lost my mother very unexpectedly, and it was very tragic for me about 19 years ago, December 20th. Going through that experience, I actually ended up changing careers. So I went from being a hairstylist to working in bereavement. And so spending my time in that industry really brought about how prevalent my gift actually was. And so it was quite taxing working in the industry because, as you can well imagine, sitting in a room with a family making funeral arrangements for their departed loved one, and their departed loved one is sitting in the room with me, got a little bit difficult to hide, to say the least.
Yeah.
So I would have to say that it sort of took me from starting to realize I had this ability to being on steroids with this ability. To say the least. And then about 3 years ago, I was approached by somebody who I had known many years ago, and I had just done random readings on her. And apparently, everything I said came true. And at the time, I really downplayed my abilities. And she approached me and basically convinced me that I needed to start to share this ability with the world.
It's such a gift, absolutely, and it provides so much peace of mind for people. And it's hope. You provide hope and faith, and it's awesome.
Well, thank you for that, because I'm sure you've heard the term used when you speak to somebody with disability, or when you've heard of them speak about it, that it can be a real gift, but at the same time, it can be a curse. My situation is a good example because I've had to take medication to sleep at night for many, many, many years. Because prior to me starting to take medication, my husband got to the point where he would keep a notepad and a pen in our bedroom, because I would literally in the middle of the night be channeling spirits and talking out loud about it. And my husband would be like in complete shock listening to me. So he got to the point where he actually would start writing information out. I mean, I can use one example in particular where I actually was provided a phone number from a young boy that was visiting me in my dreams, asking me to call his mom. And so I actually spelled this phone number out, and my husband even wrote it down. So this is very exhausting and very taxing, particularly when you're supposed to be getting rest, resting your mind, your body, and your soul. And so I finally had to really go see my doctor and just see if I could get something to sleep at night. I certainly did not tell her that I needed something to sleep at night, because I had spirits visiting me and I was hearing voices. I thought that was taking it a step too far. So, needless to say, I just blamed something else for it.
Yeah, and so let's fast forward. You had recently taken a brief trip to New York. And one of the things when I connected with you, which was so awesome to meet you in person, was how many spirits came to you during that time because of 9/11. Kind of go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so it was really interesting, but and it was great meeting you in person and giving you a big hug. It's so much different than a virtual hug, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That was such a fantastic opportunity for us both. So I guess I'll use the example. There was a market that you and I and my daughter went to. Mm-hmm. We're walking through and looking around. Do you recall what that market was? Because I don't.
Chelsea Market.
Chelsea Market, okay. So when we went to Chelsea Market, and maybe some of it was the environment too, because it was so beautiful. I remember it had all sorts of white lights inside and just such a different energy. I literally had about 200 or more spirits that suddenly started following me around. But you probably noticed my anxiety levels were building. I wasn't talking a whole lot. I was just kind of quietly staying off a little bit on my own. And it was because I could feel that my response when spirit steps forward is anxiety. That's what I would describe it as. And so my anxiety became so overwhelming in that market, I could barely breathe, to be perfectly honest with you. So I forget at what point it was that we ended up sort of pulling into a little alcove where there was a little coffee station. But you probably noticed that I went right into the back of the area where I could kind of get off the main beaten path. And that was to try to get some control over my anxiety, because you're right. And it absolutely was related to 9/11. And although where we were located, I don't feel like was that near ground zero, I think it was the fact that I was the phone booth that became available on the other side. Yeah. And therefore that drew many victims from 9/11 in.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, as we were experiencing our trip in New York, on our way from the airport, we got a ride share, and all of a sudden there was another girl in the ride share sitting behind my daughter and I, and the next thing you know, I was channeling a previous boyfriend of hers who had passed away. And my daughter was recording me without me even realizing. So the girl in the back of the thing is bawling her eyes out. The taxi driver, who could barely even speak a word of English, kept looking up in his rearview mirror, trying to figure out what was going on. And meanwhile, I was passing messages on from the other side as we were driving through New York. So it was a really powerful experience.
Yeah. And so you think so what happens is when you have that ability, the spirits come to you to communicate messages to their loved ones. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it this way, and I always describe it like this, imagine living on an island that has absolutely no communication, and then somebody suddenly tells you that they've installed a phone booth. I always say, I'm the phone booth. So everybody and anybody's going to line up because they want to communicate. No different than if we were installing the first phone booth here, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody would want to line up and try it. So that's exactly what I equate my gift and my ability to, is exactly that. So yeah, everybody was lining up and wanted to let everybody know that they were okay. And I'm sure maybe I'm also just speculating here. There may have been people in the Chelsea market, even maybe employed in the Chelsea market. As a matter of fact, I found out one person that we had connected with was connected to somebody who did perish in 9/11, which I think is maybe what kind of started that door opening. But there may have been people employed at the market that lost people in 9/11. There may have been people visiting the market that were in that boat, which might have also then escalated that appearance.
Yes. And do you remember any of the messages that were kind of being passed to you during that time?
One of the big things was, it was the same kind of theme. They were all wanting to let their loved ones know that they were okay. Interestingly enough, I didn't even really speak about this to you because we didn't really elaborate on what was going on, and I didn't really share it. Several of the spirits that were trying to communicate I think we're doing so because some of them had been trying to make phone calls, and somebody had been trying to call out to get a hold of their loved ones and to let them know they were okay. So I got the sense very distinctly that a lot of them, they wanted to finish the phone call, right? They wanted to make that connection, which I think is why the phone booth analogy is so fitting to describe what was going on. But there were so many people that were trying to make contact outside that was unfinished, that was left hanging, that they all essentially wanted to try to finish those calls. And I think that's what was actually going on and why I became so overwhelmed with it in that moment. Does that sort of make sense when I explain it that way?
100%. And the other thing is too, you briefly mentioned when you had drowned when you were little and you briefly passed over. Just to briefly describe again what it was like over there, which I think will provide people with peace of, kind of when their loved ones pass, or if their loved one did pass in 9/11, or from what's going on now, kind of where they go.
Well, and I am going to kind of start from the beginning, only because it's not just the experience of crossing over that's so incredible, Madison. It's the actual experience of leaving the physical body. And I always, when I talk about this, will say to people, a 3-year-old should not have a lot of burdens, right? A 3-year-old shouldn't be carrying huge weights of the world. Now, I mean, losing my dad obviously created a bit of a burden, but I was so young, I don't have a lot of memories other than us connecting in my dreams, right? So when I left my body, I cannot even describe to you the feeling I experienced. I honestly have always believed that I'm chronically ill and became chronically ill with autoimmune because of having to come back into my body after getting the experience of leaving it, right? If I had never had that experience, I don't think I'd be sick.
Okay, that's very interesting. And so,
Yeah.
So when you left your body, it was just a relief, or
huge. It's like And I don't really even think that there's a whole lot you could describe it as. This is going to be a different way to describe it, but imagine you're on the coolest ride you've ever been on. Like I was on certain things at Universal that would be comparable to what I'm talking about. Not the ones that would cause the feeling of fear, but the ones that would cause that feeling of elation and just euphoria. It's That's probably the best thing I can describe it as for those in the physical world to actually be able to relate to it. I also have to say that, we read about different experiences and we hear people talk about a tunnel. It's not exactly a tunnel, it's more like a light. And that light is very, very powerful and very warm and very kind of like the experience of laying on a beach with your eyes closed and feeling the sun and seeing the brightness of that. It is how I describe the tunnel. And you go through it very quickly. This is not like a slow, drawn out process. It's literally feels like seconds. So from here to there, it's very immediate, very quick. You don't spend a lot of time in that tunnel, if you will. But when you get to the top, it's slightly different than what I've heard some describe it as, because when you get to the top, there is, I'm going to call it an arbor. So that's kind of like the gates, a very, very fancy arbor. And as soon as you reach the top, there's your arbor and your loved ones immediately start to come. So strangely, in my case, it was a dog, like our dog. Then behind that was my dad. Wow. So it didn't come in the reverse. And it's, imagine the most beautiful, beautiful, vivid colors. Imagine your dog having the shiniest coat that they could ever have. Nothing like what you would see here in the physical world even. It's like their coat's been brushed and brushed and brushed, and it's silky and shiny and unbelievably beautiful. That's how the dog's coat looked. So it was like immensely healthy and shiny and beautiful looking. So that's how things look. And it's not just an animal that looks that way. It's like everything is richer, everything is brighter, everything is warmer. So when we look at a rainbow, when we're here in the physical world and we think, oh, that's beautiful, and we get this little bit of excitement, it's much greater than that when you see a rainbow on the other side. For example, the feeling is much more euphoric. Wow. We experience joy, I would say, at a heightened level. Like everything is just entirely different, but you feel no weight. Everything is like you feel no weight. I'm sitting here having a conversation with you and my shoulders feel heavy. My arms feel heavy. There's none of that when you leave this physical body behind. It's like incredible.
And I remember you and I, because you had told me about this in the previous episode, and I remember saying to you, I said, what a blessing it was to have a near-death experience and kind of experience the other side, because it puts so many things into perspective. And to know that this is just a blip in time and we have things we have to do, and this is soul school. But you said to me, no, you do not wish that. And explain to me why you said that.
Because for me, it's been a devastating setback in my life, to be honest with you, because it's kind of like, imagine living in complete and total and utter poverty and having absolutely nothing, not knowing where your next meal's coming from, sleeping on a wooden floor, having nothing, not even a basic need met. And all of a sudden somebody comes along and they whisk you away and they take you to a very wealthy lifestyle. You live in a mansion and you have servants and everything is beautiful and there's nothing you could want for or yearn for. And you get to live this life, and just as you start to feel fantastic, somebody snaps their fingers and puts you back to where you came from.
Okay. So it's kind of like we're not supposed to experience that because we need to get through it. before we go.
You don't want to come back. It was like a dirty trick being played. Honestly, it was like a dirty trick being played. Experiencing such freedom and euphoria and lightness and wholeness, and then to have to come back to this, I don't wish it on my worst enemy. I gotta be honest, I don't.
Okay. So for people who, everybody experiences losing loved ones, but during this time there's been a lot of people that are unexpectedly passing, and it's just devastating seeing the numbers and watching the bodies go in. And it's just, if to the people that could be listening that have a loved one, how would you describe kind of where they, they're obviously in peace, but just to give them a little more peace of mind?
First and foremost, I want to say this, because I think the saddest time of all of this right now that we're all experiencing, particularly somebody losing a loved one, is the fact our loved one is laying in a hospital bed alone.
Ugh.
We cannot be there. And that's what I mean by alone. Okay. We cannot be there. We're unable to connect with them live, to hug them, to hold them, to touch them, to support them. This is where we have to be so thankful and grateful to the first responders, the doctors, the nurses, all the key people that are fighting a battle every day to try to stay in a reasonably positive frame of mind while going through this extremely traumatic time. They are the people that are comforting your loved one. They are the people that are checking on them. They are the people that are doing their best to spend as much time as they can with our loved ones. They got into the industry for a reason, and usually the reason is they want to help. Mm-hmm. They want to fix. They want to do and make a bigger difference in the world. So we have to trust in that process. But what I need to say to those families is this: your loved one will not go alone. Your loved one is only alone in the moment they sit in the hospital bed, in the moments that they can't have that physical contact with you. But the moment they close their eyes, they're no longer alone. And so I feel it's so important to know that family, friends, whomever is on the other side, family, dogs, whoever is on the other side connected to your people are there.
Oh,
they're not alone, guys. They're not going alone. I understand and I can't imagine the trauma that's going on for the families that are in this exact situation I'm speaking about. And I feel it's so important for them to not lose focus on that bigger picture. The nurses, the doctors, the PSWs, all the support workers, even the janitors, are going to be doing their level best to make sure that our loved ones feel some form of touch, some form of comfort, some form of peace. But all of our loved ones on the other side are making that difference as well. They're making sure they don't go alone. And I'm going to tell you something else.
Okay.
As hard as it is to be losing people through this awful, awful time, they are going to a place of such joy and freedom and liberation and beauty. I'm jealous, and I'm not being facetious or disrespectful in any way. Please know that, to anyone who's listening. But I understand what they're going to, and the best that you can, celebrate for them.
Yes.
Celebrate that they're released. Even though we're going through the biggest scare of our lives in terms of modern history, right? I need everybody to know that still nobody will leave during this time that wasn't intended to leave anyhow. No one.
Really?
No one. Yes, it's difficult, but think about it a little differently too. When that awful terrorist attack hit the United States and New York was hugely impacted, it's so awful and hard to wrap our minds around the fact that so many lost their lives. But at the same time, those people still were going to leave at some point during this time. Why it had to all happen in one fell swoop and all at the same time is the hard part that to wrap your mind around. But it would have been their time that they were going to go. I don't have an answer to why sometimes many go together versus individually. I don't have that answer. I can't, that part I don't understand fully or know. The part I unequivocally is no one will leave if it isn't their time. No one.
Wow. And that's got to provide, some relief and some comfort. But given the state of the economy and the anxiety and people losing jobs and not having money, some people out there who might be very depressed or very desperate could be thinking of suicide. And I want you to touch on that and how it is not the answer, to provide them with hope to stay here. You're meant to stay here, to get help. What would you say to them? Because spirits that do take their own lives come back, so to say.
What will often happen is that we have to restart our lessons. So it's kind of like failing a credit.
Okay.
If we don't get credit, we have to redo it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that essentially is usually the outcome, so that if we do choose to opt out in the more horrendous times, we basically have to start our program over again. And so I don't know about anybody else. I don't want to start this program again at all.
No, I've learned my lesson. I want to finish school.
Yeah, I'm good. When I'm done and I'm out, I'm not coming back.
So to somebody who may be listening that is just so desperate, the reason they have to hang on is because when you're ready, you want to go to this euphoric, joyous place. But if it's not your time, or you're not invited at that time, it's not your time. So you have to come back and restart all the lessons, the hard lessons, the good lessons.
Yeah.
So it's
therefore you don't stay there.
Yeah. So guys, if you are feeling depressed or you're feeling alone, reach out to somebody, reach out to your friends and loved ones. They love you. They want you here. God or the universe or whatever you believe in wants you here, and to make sure you just, you stay through this and you're going to be okay.
And not only that, reach out to me if you have to, because I support a lot of people who reach that edge. I've seen so much of it and experienced it firsthand within my own family. So I know how difficult that can be, to reach that point of such desperation. Mm-hmm. And first and foremost, Madison is correct. Reach out some way. Sometimes pride gets in the way of people reaching out. And when we're going through such an economically difficult time, people's pride will get in the way to reach out, but we must reach out. This is happening for a bigger reason that most do not understand. Madison, this is not by mistake what we're experiencing as a society. Make no mistake about this.
Can you explain that more?
This is a cleansing, and I'm not talking about a cleansing of people or to cleanse people out. I'm talking about a cleansing of the human race, a cleansing of the earth. This is a greater power that has forced us to have to stop and really take a look at where we were headed.
Yeah.
This will make people who maybe had lost that side of themselves become humble again. This is to stop us all in our tracks. Listen, children are turnkey today. We're bringing children into the world that are being given a house key at 10 years old and having to unlock the door and come home alone because mom and dad are both working. Gone are the days where dad goes to work and mom stays home for the most part. Mm-hmm. Our children are being raised by video games, television programs, whatever it may be, social media.
Yeah.
Right? All of these things have happened and it's gotten way out of hand. And you have to understand, we have to go back to loving thy neighbor. We've lost sight of all these things. If we don't go back to some of our basics and our roots, well, how could we expect anything to be any different than this? Something catastrophic had to happen to bring the world together and unite us all as one.
Yeah, no.
Countries are coming together now the best way they can. Neighbors are coming together now who didn't speak before.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
As awesome as this is, there are some big things that will come from this that we will end up looking back and saying, even though it was the worst times in our lives, we're at the best place we could have ever hoped for. So I understand how scary all of this is, especially for those that are losing millions in the stock markets, trillions in some cases, billions in other cases. Of course, everybody's scared. There's people out there whose immediate reaction was to pull out rather than just ride the wave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want you to look at it in a different kind of way. You go get in a car accident, right?
Yeah.
And somehow while you're in this car accident, somebody's door gets stuck in between your doors and you can't move your car. But you decide anyways that you're going to try to move your car rather than wait for the professionals to come. I'm going to try to move my car anyways. In trying to move your car, you cause a whole lot more damage to the other person's vehicle because you're trying to wiggle out of this ironic accident you're in.
Right.
People are doing the same thing with their investments. They're panicking. They're pulling out. They're not holding faith that what goes down has to come up.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And so I say to everybody, don't just have a knee-jerk reaction right now. We don't know where everything's going to end up. We're all guessing at this point, every one of us.
Yeah.
Right? But at the end of the day, we're all going to end up coming out stronger and better. What does it mean? It means that you're not going to be cashing your investments out next week like you thought. It means you're going to leave them sit there a little longer till they start to stabilize and grow again or come back to what they were. But that's the worst case scenario right now. It's time, and time will be on our side with this. Everybody needs to be worrying more about not spreading this thing around any further than we have, listening to the professionals, although they're still navigating this. They don't even have all the answers, right?
Yeah.
So to those people that are selfishly thinking they're invincible and not maybe being as diligent as what they need to, stop and do what you're being asked to do.
Yes.
So we get the spread stopped. That is what the problem is. We didn't have a proper plan in place because what was coming was a war that we didn't know was coming, right? So there was a lot of mistakes made. That is another good thing that's going to come from all of this. Huge learning curves,
Yeah.
right? People are going to understand better what to do next time to shut it down a little quicker. If we would have all stopped pointing the finger of blame to try to figure out who was to blame, we could have had things shut down a little faster, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, some of it's human nature that we have to find somebody to blame. Are there going to be material things that some lose going through this? Yes, there are. I'm not going to sit here and lie to people. There's no question. There's going to be some of that occurs. But on the flip side of that, people are going to grow their own tomatoes and their own peppers and their own cucumbers, and they're going to share them with their neighbor again.
Aww.
People are going to grow their own gardens, and they're going to set a little fruit stand up at their end of the driveway that says, "Free to those who need this."
Aww.
Okay? That's one example. Those, and not to be disrespectful in any way, there are many people out there that have a lot of money that have maybe lost touch with where they came from. you
Yes.
know, lost touch with where they started, lost touch with their humble selves and their humble beginnings. That is all going to come back. That is all going to change. People who've lost touch with that are suddenly going to be in touch with it again.
That's,
Kind of like how the Scrooge was. Remember the movie The Scrooge?
yep.
Some of that's going to be our story in society. At the end of the day, Madison, the most important things to survive is humanity, our humanitarian actions, our behaviors, caring about each other, loving one another, going back to the days where, if need be, we offer a room up in our home to
Yeah.
somebody. That has all been lost for so long. We haven't been able to see the forest for the trees. Hearses don't pull U-Hauls. Everyone needs to worry less about the material things they're going to lose and start to worry more about the humanitarian aspect of what they're going to gain.
Yes.
Nothing in my home am I going to take with me. At the end of the day, the only thing I'm going to take with me is who I am as a person, what I offered as a human being, and the difference that I made when I had the chance to make it. And everybody needs to remember that as we're going through this horrible time.
I mean, that was so well said, because I think so many people get caught up in, trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to say, or impress people, or think like, oh, I quote unquote made it. But it's about us learning our lessons here, but connecting with each other and being one, essentially.
And think about this, Madison, and listen, I'm going to be the first one to admit, because of the huge financial responsibilities I have with the size of my family and some of the things I've had, I carry more debt probably than most people. And I'm going to tell you something. When this is over, I'm going to think long and hard before I get a credit card out again.
Yes.
I'm going to think long and hard when I'm standing in the grocery store and the Nutty Buddies are on sale for $3.99 instead of $6.99. I'm not buying 16 boxes anymore, I'll tell you that much. You know what I'm saying? Truthfully, though, I'm going to be proper and buy 2 boxes like a normal person would do. Yep. Not 16 boxes, because clearly I don't need them. and not put it on my credit card. Do you understand? People are going to learn. We young couples get married, and what do? In the first year they're married? They got to have the flat screen TV. Can't have a flat screen TV without the surround sound. Can't have the surround sound without the 3D option. Do you know what I'm saying? No, truthfully. And yeah. Before you know it, 12 months into the marriage, they've racked up so much debt that they can't breathe, and they wonder where things went so horribly wrong. And so this is the time for us to all learn and relearn some really basic, simple principles that we've all lost sight of.
Absolutely. So it's almost a blessing in disguise in a weird way.
It is. There are people living that have real world problems, not worried about, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to get my new Mercedes soft top, hard top, whatever top you might think. That's a bummer. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's actually, not to dismiss that, but realistically, there are people out there that have real world problems. And this event in the world that we're experiencing are going to help remind those that forgot that is the truth of the matter. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a huge win.
Huge.
It's a huge win. And listen, I'll tell you something else. You don't have to worry. If things get really bad, I'll make some extra room in my house for you. So don't worry.
Oh, you're so sweet. You're so sweet.
Stay with me.
Exactly, right? So what do you think, if we kind of fast forward a little bit, I think a lot of people are, summer is a really great time for everybody and the weather's nice. Do you think that we'll be out of this by the summer?
So my sense I'm going to be, brutally honest, my sense is the first week of June, we're going to start to see the gradual improvement in terms of things starting to turn the corner. I think particularly in the US, to be honest, this thing seems to be riding about 3 weeks behind, geographically somehow, okay? So I feel Canada in particular, we've been about 3 weeks behind. You guys are at a different spot in this than what we are. So my sense is come June, we're going to start to see some improvement and some of the light of day. This isn't going to be fully behind us in totality, right? Because it's a global thing that's delayed from one place to the next to the next. So, for example, as you guys may start to recover from a health perspective, there'll still be other countries that you may be producing ventilators, masks, equipment for to be sent out. So there'll still be some of that occurring, right? So on a global front, we're not going to be out of this in June, but I feel the US in particular will have started to see a turn in this, a change. So come the nice weather, I don't think that we're going to be flying all over the place yet. I don't. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
I have to tell you the truth. And I can't be dishonest about this because people don't appreciate dishonesty at the end of the day anyways.
Yeah.
I don't think flights are going to be back to normal yet. I feel like they'll gradually start to add certain, do you know what I mean? Flights to certain destinations. I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to start it back up on a gradual basis. I don't think they're just going to go full throttle. And part of that, I think, is as a means of damage control, if you will, also, right? I think they're going to kind of be testing the waters to see, and then see if there's any fallout. I think they're going to be very cautious getting everything back to normal with this Madison, because we're not in the eye of the storm yet in some places.
Right. They say like the peak's going to be in a couple weeks.
That's right. And so having said that, where you are sitting, especially, you're seeing it. I mean, New York is the epicenter of this pandemic for the US.
I know. It's crazy.
Right. So from where you're sitting, and knowing how bad things already are, you know, we're going into April here. Right? You know, if we're a couple weeks away from the peak, it's going to take a while. But I'm going to tell you something really exciting about this whole thing.
Oh, good.
If we're only just starting to come out of this in the summer, it doesn't mean summer has to be ruined and destroyed and over. It might just mean that we're really spending our summers with our immediates, you know? Really going back to doing things with our kids that maybe we haven't had the opportunity to do in a long time. Like, I might actually get to teach my son how to grow a garden. I might actually get to spend some time teaching my son some of the life skills that he's going to need to actually move forward in life. Some of the things I've not had time to do because I'm so busy trying to support a large family. So I might get to teach him how to cook. I might get to camp in my backyard with him for the first time, and I don't know when, and have a bonfire and roast marshmallows and make s'mores and have a little drink. And I might get to do these fun things that I haven't had time to do. So I'm really excited about summer. I'm like super excited about summer.
Oh.
Yeah. I might get a pool and fill it with ice and put some drinks in. Like, I'm going to wrap a rump roast up in many layers of tin foil, stick it in the coals of the fire, cook it in all my favorite seasonings, and it's so good if you've not tried it. The best roast you'll ever eat is my roast. When I stuff it with fresh garlic and I spice it up and I wrap it in like 10 layers of tin foil and put it in the coals of a fire.
That's so good.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I have an air mattress, so camping's not going to be so hard on my back.
I love it.
Yeah. So you know what?
Yeah.
Come this summer, people are going to get to do some things with their kids that maybe they never thought they'd ever get to do. They're going to get to teach their kids things that maybe it didn't even occur to them they should be teaching them. So we're going to be going back to having some really old-fashioned fun. A balloon fight, a water balloon fight.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
A water gun fight, a water balloon fight. It's going to be time to get creative, but have some fun. People are going to be finding their child, their inner child again, because they're going to get to do all these fun things with their kids that they never thought of doing before because they just didn't have time.
And what do you say to people that maybe don't have kids? How do you think that's going to go?
It's going to be so amazing because I will say this pandemic is going to take a toll and be hard on a lot of couples and a lot of marriages, particularly marriages that were already reaching either a breaking point or struggling.
Okay.
Those couples that don't have kids are going to get the opportunity to really, really reconnect with one another again, to maybe sit by a bonfire or in front of a fireplace and check in with one another and find out, what is your favorite color now? Oh my God, I didn't even know you were into that new music artist. I haven't. People have lost touch with each other. Couples living under the same roof together don't know a lot about each other because they've both been so tied up with careers and with other stressors going on in their lives. They've lost touch with one another. So those couples will survive. Here's the other thing. People who have had a broken marriage, let's fix it now, kids. We have time. We now have time to fix it and to actually reconnect that way. I ironically do a lot of marriage counseling and marriage sessions with people. Now is the time to reach out to somebody that can maybe help assist you and guide you, that can help you sort of fix where you're at and improve things. And so take advantage of working on the things you haven't had time to work on.
Yeah.
Play games together. You know, this is going to sound, Madison, get a coloring book and crayons and sit and color together.
Yeah.
Honestly. You know remember those fuzzy pictures, the big ones that you could color with markers?
Oh my gosh, I love those.
Same here. Order some of those in. Sit together as a husband and a wife. Do you want to know one of my favorite memories with my family is, believe it or not? We went up north to Collingwood, where Blue Mountain is. You probably heard of Blue Mountain in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
They have this little place. It's a pottery place, and I can't even remember what the name of it is. But every year that we took the kids up, one of the first things we would do, crock-a-doodle-doo or something like that. Crock-a-doodle or something along those lines. We would actually go, the first night we got there, we would each choose a piece that we wanted to make for one of our family members, right? So I might make something for my daughter. She might make something for my son. And we would all sit together for a couple hours in this place, saying very little to one another, believe it or not, and just painting our piece, getting it ready to go in the kiln so that it can be fired. And to this day, my kids enjoyed that most about all our trips, was the time we just sat together and we were just with one another in a quiet headspace, doing something so therapeutic. And those are the things that I want to see people doing.
Yeah.
Get a 5,000 piece puzzle in. Sit together and do a jigsaw puzzle. We don't rest our minds anymore. Our poor brains have been overstimulated for so long. It's no wonder we've got OCD, ADD, ADHD, every other D on the planet that's not a healthy one to have. Well, when we're being born and our brains are being overstimulated 1,000 miles an hour, how can we not have one of everything? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. I mean, that's such a great thing. So, and then, okay, so we've talked about kind of the families and the marriages. What do you say for people that are single and dating, but can't get out to like meet different people? Or I feel like this is probably a great way to have virtual sessions and really get to know each other without jumping into a room,
It is. It is a fantastic time for people to connect in that way. What I would suggest that you do, though, this is my advice.
Uh-huh.
Those that are going to be more virtual dating right now than actually physically dating, um, come up with a little bit of games. Write out a whole bunch of different get to know you questions.
Okay.
You talk to the person you're connecting with and say, listen, this is something that that was suggested to me to do just for fun. If you're interested, and you can do a whole bunch of questions up and sit and actually ask one another those questions, and then jot down the answers that the other one gives, sort of as a way to get to know each other. Like, what was your fondest first childhood memory? What was the name of your very first dog? What was your favorite? You know what I mean? Like, all of those kinds of questions that will help each other actually truly get to know each other. Not on such a surface level, but on a deeper level, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's one of my suggestions that I would be doing if I was doing online dating, is actually finding a creative way to make it more fun.
Oh
You
my
should create some sort of I bet you there's a business that can be created out of this, if it was done right. Kind of like dating trivia, you know?
100%, because people, I think what happens typically on dates is, people will go to dinner or they'll go get a drink, and then they start to kind of get drunk to feel maybe more comfortable, and they ask the surface level questions. They don't ask, it's kind of like, where do you live? Where do you work? Where'd you grow up? How many siblings do you have? Instead of like, I can't remember the last time I asked a date what his favorite color was.
Right?
You know, like, or
And it's so
favorite childhood
basic.
memory.
Yeah. And those are really important things to get to know about somebody as you're thinking about moving forward and starting a future with them. Like, those are really relevant things to know. And at the same time, they're things that make the person actually think you're really interested in them, and you're really interested in actually getting to know them, not just interested in sex on the beach. Do you know what I mean? Seriously,
100%. 100%.
when's the last time you went out on a first date and the guy actually got deep enough to say, so who was your favorite grandmother? Your mom's mom or your dad's mom? Or is she still alive? Is she this? Is she that? Like,
Yeah.
this really could be a really great little business to get going right now if you think about it.
Oh, absolutely. Or just people just connecting really deep, connecting more deeply, versus just kind of on the surface, or like, oh, they meet my checklist, so to say. So let's
Yeah.
actually talk about health. What are some things that people can do to make sure they stay healthy through this and going forward?
Okay. So first and foremost, let me just say, whatever you do, don't do any of the stuff I've been doing, okay? Because it's not working.
What do you mean?
I've been eating Nutty Buddies and chocolate bars and ice cream and, great smoothies with lots of ice cream and fruit in them. But anyway, I've gotten off on a little binge that I shouldn't have. So whatever you do, don't follow my lead.
Okay.
Starters. Get out for the walk. I feel the walk is going to be the most important thing, especially for as long as we have that privilege available right now, right?
Uh-huh.
Going out 30 minutes a day is really what they're recommending to keep up on your cardio, to keep physically in shape. And that fresh air, I think, is going to be really important. Not only that, getting out of the house and clearing our minds, particularly if we do have a family at home that we're living with, that we need to have a break from one another, right?
Mm-hmm.
So doing that, I feel like vitamin C is going to be hugely important, but I also think people should be researching colloidal silver and silver water right now.
What is that again?
Colloidal silver.
What is that?
So it's basically silver water. There's a book, let me tell you this, called The Most Precious Metal. That is a great book that if everybody opens it up or downloads it online, which you can, and read up on it, I'll show you it just so you see what it is.
Okay.
So it's written by 2 doctors, and it's called The Most Precious Metal.
Wow.
And this book essentially talks about everything that colloidal silver is good for. And I mean, there's a ton. But for example, let me just show you a snapshot of the one page. Interestingly enough, even includes malaria as one of the things it treats, okay?
Wow.
It's basically a natural type of antibiotic. So
Okay.
if you've got bacteria or underlying infections, it helps to remedy that. It can be used topically, internally, the whole bit. But here's an example of some of the things that it actually will help. And that's just a few. I mean, basically boils, corneal ulcers, ear infections, endocarditis, food poisoning, meningitis, impetigo, pneumonia is a big one. Scarlet fever, septicemia, sinusitis, strep throat, supportive arthritis, tooth decay, like the list goes on, wound infections. And that doesn't even include, I mean, it's good for things like Lyme disease, abscesses, antibacterial. So this is a product that I really think a lot of people should have in their home right now, even maybe be on it just as precautionary.
Take it every day.
Yeah, so you would take two teaspoons twice a day. And you guys are very blessed because in the US, by the way, 500 mils, and it's called Silver Biotics in the US.
Okay.
Silver Biotics is the brand name. At Walmart in the US, it's $20 for 500 mils. In Canada, the same 500 mils, $56.
Wow.
Yeah. So, in terms of access, and Silver Biotics is a very, very good quality one. Like it's one of the best ones. But that is a product that I feel like everybody and anybody should be on right now, but particularly anybody that might be vulnerable. And I got to be honest, you guys, about this thing. I don't think they truly know at this stage who's more vulnerable than the next person. I really don't think that I think that they're trying to get a gauge on that. I don't think we truly know. No one is immune to this. No one.
No one. I know. And that's the scary part. It's just, you just hope. But I guess what it goes back to what you said previously is that, you know, it's a weird thing to say in a way, but it's no one leaves before their time.
I know it's a weird thing to say, but it's true. And we have to hang on to that. We have to hang on to that because if we don't, we'll have no peace. We'll have no release. We'll have no comfort if we don't. And it's the truth anyway. So not only do we have to hang on, it's a fact. It is a fact. So
do you think that when each person is born or our spirit takes a human form, that a lot of things are predestined?
There are a lot of things that are predestined. Things especially that are predestined are connections to other people we're going to have in the physical world are all predestined. Even not just the good ones. The bad ones are too. Why? They're here to teach us lessons.
Wow.
I'll tell you something else. Maybe you can relate to this. I certainly can. And I know a lot of our listeners and viewers will be able to relate to this.
Uh-huh.
Some people will have the same repeated lessons over and over and over again, right? So it's kind of like some people end up constantly having friendships that get strained or friendships that come in and have to go out, those things. Why they will become repetitive in nature, why you'll have to keep revisiting that same lesson is because you're not changing. For example, some people might work in, here's a good example. Someone might work in a workplace environment and get sexually harassed, right? Okay. I'm using sensitive, but I'm using it. They decide they leave that environment because they can't cope. They don't know how to cope. They go to the next environment and bang, what happens again? Next thing you know, somebody's sexually harassing them. They leave that job. They go to the next one. What happens again? Same thing. Why does it keep happening? It's not about that person doing something wrong to attract that behavior. It's because that person is not doing the right thing in response to that behavior to stop it once and for all. So the universe is going, okay, fail, you didn't learn. Now, when are you going to get the picture? So in other words, if you don't stand up and put a stop to it and take a stand, it's going to happen again because you didn't do what needed to be done. What needs to be done in those types of situations is we need to take a stand so it doesn't happen to the next person who comes in behind us.
Yes.
Once you take a stand, that behavior will suddenly stop coming into your life.
Okay.
So when people are repeatedly running into these same obstacles or experiencing the same bad lesson in life, and they're like, why me? Why does this always happen to me? Stop worrying about the why me and look at the how do I stop this from reoccurring?
Yeah.
How did I handle it last time? Oh, I handled it the same way last time as I did the time before. So as soon as we stop that same cycle, we don't need to learn the lesson anymore, so it doesn't come.
That's true. And you know what's so funny is like, you know, if you go on like different dating blogs or things like that, or relationship things, they always say, you know, if relationships they're not working out and you find yourself kind of in the same position, they say the one common denominator that you have to look at is you're the same person showing up to the relationship. You got to look inside yourself sometimes and say, what am I doing that's attracting the wrong thing? Or what am I supposed to learn by dating these wrong people for me or being with these wrong people?
100%. And that's exactly what essentially my point is to all of it. I don't even know how I got way off on that tangent. Do you? What was the question you actually asked, and did I even answer it?
I'm so like intrigued by what you're talking about that I don't even. It was colloidal silver, and then was it nutrition, advanced relation? I don't know, but it was good, and I was just so involved that I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, perfect. As long as I'm not losing you, we're good. And so
No,
vitamin C obviously is going to be another important one, right? Take vitamin C. And remember, one thing I want to be very clear about, anything that I bring up or I suggest is usually being led by some by the other side, some by some common sense. But I leave it to the viewer or anybody else considering using these things to do their own research
100%.
And be comfortable with what they're deciding to use. Because I'll tell you, turmeric curcuma is fantastic. And as far as I'm concerned, the whole population should be on it. And it's fantastic for many reasons. Great for building your immune system and strengthening your immune system. Great for anything inflammatory. Great for depression.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got to talk about depression. Even people who've never experienced depression in their lives are going to be experiencing depression going through this catastrophic world event. So you need to be doing things that can help with depression. And one thing that is turmeric curcuma is very well known for helping with depression. And I recommend people actually buy the root and clean it up themselves, put it in a bullet and use it that way versus the capsules. Are you familiar with turmeric curcuma?
Yeah, well, I remember you mentioned this to me before. I was taking the turmeric in the capsules that I would get at a vitamin store, and you suggested, no, get the pure root.
Absolutely. And so just so that for the sake of anybody who's tuning in or who's viewing, I will kind of so that's actually what turmeric curcuma looks like.
Okay.
Peel it like you would a carrot.
Uh-huh.
Then you dice it and you leave it out till it dries. So you can tell by feeling it once it's dry. Once it's dry, you put it into a bullet and there you have it. And you would take 1 teaspoon a day. And it could be bought at any food marts that sell like Asian food, things like that. Any food marts that kind of cater to that, that's available. And it's on average $3 or $3.50 a pack. So it's very inexpensive. But I encourage anybody who's tuned in, do the research on it and see all the different benefits. It's a great preventer of cancer, preventer of dementia and Alzheimer's. Like, it has many, many good benefits to it. So,
wow.
Personally, if you have access to it, if you come across it, I recommend everybody be taking it right now. Wear gloves, though, when you handle it and clean it, because your fingers do turn orange.
Yeah, that's true, right? It is very like potent with the color.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this has been so great. Is there any other messages that might be coming through from the other side that you want to pass along before we depart? Not depart,
One thing,
that sounded weird. Like before we depart this podcast.
not like permanently departing, unfortunately for me. One big thing that I want to really say, and that's going to be important. People who are losing loved ones through this and have lost loved ones because of your own emotional trauma that you're going through and isolation you're going through, maybe struggling to feel as though they're getting connection to their loved one or getting messages from their loved one. And remember, some of that may be that you're simply not noticing because you're so overwhelmed. So pay attention for things like flickering lights, Siri randomly coming up on your phone without, like, that happens to me all the time. And my Siri, you've got to push the button to make it work.
Yes.
So Siri randomly coming on, little white dove feathers, not like feathers you'd see off a bird, the little tiny down feathers, those are another big symbol they'll send. Dimes. And don't just dismiss it as having fallen out of somebody's pocket. The other day, I went to go in my purse, and I have OCD, so my change purse is always closed tight. Every bill faces the right way. And in the bottom of my purse, Madison, all in an exact row, 5 dimes. Not one other denomination, 5 dimes. I never have loose change in my purse. If I get change given back to me, it goes straight in my change purse. Mm-hmm. Never, ever do I have loose change. 5 dimes, nothing else.
Explain the significance of the dime. Why the dime?
They will be, for some reason, it's dimes they like to send. I don't know why that became the popular thing. It's never nickels, it's never quarters, it's always dimes. I really don't have an answer for why they choose dimes. I have to be honest. And the really cool thing is, often the dimes will have a date on it that is related to the loved one, whether it's the year they passed, the year they were born, but there will be usually a date associated to the dime that's somehow connected to them or connected to an important event in your own life. So read the dime, check the date. For fun, people should really hang on to them. You'd be surprised at how many they send. Oh, so I really don't know why they choose dimes, Madison. I would be lying if I said I did. I just know they show me dimes, right? So they will actually physically show me a dime. They don't show me a quarter. They don't show me a nickel. Always they'll show dimes. And so I've never had them ever show me any other coin besides a dime.
Interesting, because I've sometimes heard too, like, or my mom used to say, don't dismiss a penny on the ground. A penny is a symbol from God, and so I always kind of believe that, when I'd see pennies, I'd be like, hi.
Yeah, well, so same type of premise with dimes, except they come from our departed loved ones. Oh my goodness, I got to tell you something. Your family dog is showing up again. Okay, so I've got parents' dog once again that's appearing right here in the middle of my life that wants me to let everybody know they're okay. It's like, is there something significant today related to your parents' dog?
No.
Okay, so I think what's happening is the dog's coming forward to make me talk about the fact not only our human departed loved ones can make their presence known, but our furry companions also can make their presence known. So I think that's why your parents' dog is showing up, is so I'll talk about that and to let people know they also are capable of sending symbols. So how do you know your departed pet is around? If you have other animals, they will bark at thin air, or they will seem very playful when you're not the one playing with them. Things might occur with toys. Those types of things will be a good indicator your other animals around. Sometimes you'll actually feel the foot of your bed go down in the night without there being a physical presence there. If they used to sleep at the foot of your bed, you can actually still feel that sometimes. Sometimes it'll go so far as that you can see the imprint in a duvet and things like that. So people
Wow.
need to pay attention more, be more aware of what kind of signs they could be looking at than what they actually are, right? Electricity is a big one. Where I live, we were originally on a very small part of the grid that only 49 other houses were on. We always lost our power. It was hours before they fixed our section of the grid. So, of course, we went out and bought generators finally. A few years ago, they fixed our issue and added us to the rest of the grid. And quite honestly, since we bought our generators, maybe 5 years now, actually, we've never once needed them. We've never lost power since they put us on the main grid. Recently, I had a girl come to me for a reading. Twice the hydro for my entire property went out in a 10-minute span that she was sitting with me. And it was 1000% her loved one.
Oh my.
That is the one and only time my power has gone out, probably in 5 years of being here, since they fixed the grid issue. So, lights that will sometimes go dimmer and then brighter, that's another sign. So
I get that all the time. I don't know if it's my lights or if it's like my grandparents or the dog hanging around being like, you're good.
That's what it is. It's always spirit letting us know they're okay. So right now, remember, as long as we're all anxious, we're all struggling, we're all in a different kind of focus, we may lose sight of the signs that are actually coming. So be mindful and pay attention. And please, whatever you do, don't not talk to them. So if you're in a situation where one of your loved ones is in the hospital and they're passing away, okay, or you find out they did pass, say all the things to them you want to say, they'll receive it. So don't just assume that that they can't hear you or that you don't get to say goodbye. Go through those steps and still say the same things you would say if you were right there. If they're in the hospital, sit in a quiet space, close your eyes, go into like a meditative state, and actually visualize yourself holding their hand. Actually visualize yourself being with them. They will feel your presence at some level, or they will know that that you're thinking of them or that you're with them. So take advantage of doing the things from afar that they can feel our presence, because those things help.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so
I know
if this has been so amazing, where can people find you and connect with you to reach out to get a reading or talk on a more personal level?
So as you can see behind me, I Beyond Belief, and that's my photo. That's actually one of my photos on my website. Actually, my assistant changed my main photo. So if you go to Facebook and Google Beyond Belief Psychic Medium, I will come up. And my name's also Holly McGeorge. So I do come up under Holly McGeorge as well. You can go there. You can read reviews that people have left about their experience with me. You can message through my Beyond Belief page, or you can email me at Holly, HOLLY _McGeorge, MCGEORGE @yahoo.ca, or a direct phone call or text to 519-639-5909. And I do work globally, right across the world. I do sessions in the UK, Spain, Colombia, Mexico, all over the world, literally. And so if you're in a time zone that's at least 5 hours different, that's fine. I just ask that you let me know what time zone you're in when you reach out, so I know when I'm booking your appointment that we're on the right time frame. And my virtual sessions can be done via Skype, FaceTime, Messenger video, or phone, but we have and WhatsApp as well. So I have many variations to do a virtual session. And I should also mention, Madison, to everyone who's watching, during this crisis that we're all in together, I am offering a bit of a special rate on my virtual sessions to help everyone out. So for those who are interested, they just need to private message me, and my assistant will provide that information.
Oh, wonderful. And I think people just want to know what's going to happen. What's going to, people that have lost jobs, and it's great that you provide that service, that, you're able to connect with the other side to kind of give people that hope to stay positive and keep trucking on.
And I should also mention that if you go and you follow and like my Beyond Belief business page, I do live videos on there that everybody and anybody's welcome to join in on. I do take calls from viewers, answer questions live, channel spirits live. So it's a really great place for people to come on and commune together and just really get some insight on things that might be happening and things that I might be saying about what's going on in that moment. And they do tend to find a lot of peace of mind in doing that. So
I love that. And when she says her Beyond Belief page, she's talking about on Facebook, the Facebook page. Yeah. You don't have a website, do you?
No, I haven't gone to the website yet. I might do it eventually, but I am on Instagram as well. Okay. And so I am listed on Instagram. I believe I might be listed as Holly McGeorge. If not, I'm Beyond Belief.
No, so I cannot believe psychic medium.
Okay, perfect. Thankfully, one of us knows. And also, I'm on Twitter as well.
Okay, wonderful. So yeah, you guys, if you need some hope or want to connect with loved ones or need a future reading just to kind of get you through this time, or I suggest, I'm a client of Holly's. I love this stuff. It's like it just provides you with kind of guidance that you're on the right path, doing what you're doing, and kind of helps answer some questions business wise or personal, or it just kind of, for me, I use Holly kind of as a guiding light in a way, to just make sure I'm doing the right things and I'm continuing on the right path, so to say. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that you reach out to her. She is unbelievably amazing. She's the first official guest that has come on the podcast twice. This is how amazing I think she is.
Well, that's so awesome. Thank you for that, Madison. I always love being on your show and love seeing your beautiful face. So I feel really privileged that I got to be a second guest. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And, I think I should also mention that we're all going to end up okay. Mm-hmm. I need and want everybody who tunes in and who's listening to this to know, one way or another, when we come out of this, we will come out of this stronger, better, smarter, humbler, and just greater overall. Because we're going to come back together as a society. And everybody right now, you just need to hang on to. There is a much bigger, higher power involved in what's going on. And at the end of the day, everyone is going to be better for this. So nobody is going to end up coming out of this anyway, but better than they were before this.
Amen. I love that. That's so great. Well, Holly, thanks again for being here and providing us light in kind of a dark time right now. And thank you guys for listening at home or wherever you are and tuning in. And please feel free to reach out to Holly. You can reach out to me for any questions as well. And I thank you guys for listening to another episode of Next to Madison. We'll see you guys next time to find out who's next.
Hi, your host, Madison Malloy here. I just wanted to remind you guys to please follow the show on social media at Next to Madison. And if you have any questions or suggestions for the show, or you feel that you would be a great guest on the show and would love to be considered, please feel free to email me at nexttomadison@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms. And I thank you again for listening.